Hi, everyone. Firstly, thank you so much, MaGIC, for giving me this chance to speak. I looked at the website for this event, and I was absolutely blown away. I'm Malaysian. I started my entrepreneurial journey here. But the quality of speakers and the quality of event and the quality of topics that I saw on that website is not something that I would ever have guessed would come to Kuala Lumpur. So, whatever you guys are doing at MaGIC, incredible job. This is world-class level. And I had friends who came last year from around the world, and they said they have not seen things like this, even in the United States. So, incredible job. Please give MaGIC a big round of applause. I'm going to be talking about an idea that I stumbled upon as I became an entrepreneur. I call it the theory of extraordinary. See, most entrepreneurs are obsessed with time. You want to do more in less time. And you're also obsessed with results. You want to continuously get better and better and better results. But I noticed something really unique, right? Many of the world's most brilliant entrepreneurs, they have the same obsession, time and results. But there's something about how they do it that creates exponential leaps. I'm not talking about incremental leaps, I'm talking about exponential leaps. How is it that men like Steve Jobs can be simultaneously CEO of Apple and Pixar? How is it that someone like Richard Branson could start 8 companies in 8 different industries and take them to $1 billion each? How is it that someone like Elon Musk could start Spacex and then Tesla and then be the chairman of Solar City? I've been obsessed with understanding how these great entrepreneurs think. And when you read the biographies of them, you see words such as bending reality, charisma, intuitive guidance, supernatural skills. Is there something almost magical about the way these men think? So in my journey, one of the things I decided to do is really get to study and get to know a lot of great entrepreneurs. So I actually got myself into many elite mastermind groups in Silicon Valley. I got to visit SpaceX, meet Elon Musk. I got to spend time with Branson on his island. And as I got to talk to many of these men, I noticed a certain pattern. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. It's about what makes great entrepreneurs different. And don't worry, this is not about being a billionaire. Rather, it's about if you're starting out, these are the fundamental truths that you need to know to get you to epic levels fast, and it's unconventional. Most startups do not talk about this. Most books on entrepreneurship fail to mention this. Your parents, your teachers, your cultures, I guarantee you have never spoken about this. So this is what I want to share. First, a little bit about myself. I run a company called Mindvalley. We are a Malaysian-made company. We're an American-Malaysian company. In other words, we service the American market, but we were started right here in Malaysia, in Bangsa. So I'm one of you. Our goal at Mindvalley is to create an online platform for education that someday can touch 1 billion lives. Right now, we have about 500,000 customers, students, but our goal is to hit 1 billion. But what we focus on is alternative curriculum. So we focus on bringing into education stuff that mainstream education, especially in the United States, has completely forgotten. Things such as conscious practices, health and wellness, leadership, parenting, growth hacking, stuff that really, we believe, make human beings extraordinary. So that's what we do. And we work with many incredible American authors, people like Eckhart Tolle, like Lisa Nichols, like Harbecker, guys who have best-selling books, and we build online platforms and systems where these incredible authors can get their work out. We are obsessed with technology, so we have a big tech force over here in Malaysia, hiring almost 35 developers, making incredible tools to help learning. And we've had some incredible successes. Our app, for example, Omvana, which is a meditation app, has been the #1 highest grossing app in over 30 countries. And it was built right here in Kuala Lumpur. But all of that is beside the point. The point is this. When I started out, it was a slow growth and then a leap. We're going to talk about what caused that leap. But first, let me show you my failure rate. This is my score in the first 2 years from the time I graduated. Within 2 years of graduation, I had successfully gotten myself fired from a job twice. I'd successfully started 2 startups and had both of them fail. I had successfully taken $30,000 US that I borrowed and lost it all. So that was my score 2 years after graduation. Can anyone beat that? Raise your hand if you have, because I would love to buy you a drink. The point is, failure leads to success. You got to think about failure in a different way. I failed and failed and failed. So at a certain point, now I studied in the United States, so at a certain point after graduation, I moved to New York, and I was working for a company then, but I was miserable. I hated my job. So I decided to quit and start my own business. Now, I was really loving meditation. I'd taken a meditation class, and that dramatically transformed me and how my mind works. So it was 2002, Google had launched AdWords, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could build a really cool e-commerce site focused on my passion, which was meditation. Okay, so that's what I did. I started my own business. It started in New York, in that apartment right over there. Sorry, I hit the wrong button on the clicker. Started in that apartment in New York in Times Square. And this is not Disney Times Square, which is the way it is right now. This is hookers and crack Times Square of 1999. The apartment where I started my meditation business, funny story, but 2 years before I moved into that apartment, it was a Thai massage parlor. And we all know what Thai massage parlor is code word for. So yes, one of the world's biggest meditation companies started in the former whorehouse. That was me starting out. You can see I could barely afford to wear pants. That's me in New York. What people don't know is that the chair, the table, all of that, I couldn't afford, so I actually found it on the street. Neighbors had tossed it out on 47th Street, dragged that in. That's what I was working on. And here's what I noticed, right? When I think back to those days, that first year of starting a business, it was so much fun. See, my first month, I lost $800 putting money in Google AdWords to try to buy traffic. I lost $800. I had no idea what I was doing. Second month, I figured it out a bit, so I lost only $300. But by month 4, it was exciting. I was making, get this, a grand total of $4.50 every single day. $4.50. That, by the way, guys, is a grande Starbucks. Now, this excited me. I remember, so I had my day job. I wasn't dumb enough to quit my day job because I was only making $4.50 a day. I remember going to bars and telling my friends, guys, I found this incredible, I built this incredible website. Imagine, I get free coffee every day, and I celebrated it. Now, by month 5, it had gone up from $4.50 to about $5.50. Now, get this. Now, I could upgrade from grande to venti. And then it went up to $8. Now, it was venti with hazelnut flavoring and whipped cream. Now, by month 7, I was making enough to also afford a Subway sandwich. Now it was a grand total of about $11 a day, right? So I felt so successful. I was gamifying my life without realizing it. Every day was a quest to see how much free food I could get. And I tracked it all. I loved it. It was so much fun. But then this happened. The business grew, and in my first year, I made a whopping total of $40,000. Now, of course, that's revenue. Profit was maybe a tiny amount, maybe 8-9 grand. But I knew that I had enough to quit my job and dedicate my life to building this particular business. By the way, I did a simple math, okay? And that math was, I tried to calculate how much my wife and I, we were married back then, needed to survive in New York in a given month. We realized the number was 4,000 US. So as soon as we could make 4,000 US profit, we quit everything else and we just dedicated ourselves to our business. This is a really good piece of advice to anyone who's starting out. Don't quit your job outright. Start something during your weekends or your side hours. Calculate your minimum needed income, MNI, minimum needed income. Okay, and when you can hit that, quit your job. Elon Musk did the same thing. Elon Musk in an interview said that he was interviewed by Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said he figured out that he could survive on $30 US a day. He found that he could go to big wholesale stores in the US, buy all the ramen noodles he needed, and bread, and bear fruit, and survive on $1 a day. And when he realized that there was nothing to fear. And he said that gave him fuel to become the entrepreneur he is today. So I figured out my MNI, my minimum needed income. And when I hit that, I quit. So when I quit and I started my business, I ended up losing my US visa because, of course, when you quit, you no longer can get your H-1 visa. I came back to Malaysia. In Malaysia, I set up my office. My father had a warehouse in Cheras. He was a trader. And there was a back room in the warehouse that was free, so he gave me that back room. So I started up my office in Cheras. It was the most, it was the ghetto, really. Please don't start a business in Cheras unless your father's giving you free rent. But here's what happened. It got stressful. And all of a sudden, all that fun, all that adventure, all that excitement disappeared. I had to worry about taxes. I had to worry about employees. I had to worry about hiring and firing and paying rent and figuring out bills and dealing with invoices. I didn't know all of that stuff. And for the next 5 years, Mindvalley stagnated. So we had, from 2004, when I moved to Malaysia, to 2005, 4 years of struggle. It got so bad that May 2008, I was making $250,000 a month in revenue. That sounds good, but we were losing $15,000 a month. Our money in the bank was running out. Me and my business partner at that time were in debt. He had $100,000 of student loans to pay back in the US. I was so broke, even in 2008, 5 years after starting Mindvalley, I was driving the crappiest car you can imagine, and I was living with my parents, in a house with my parents. I was making peanuts, and I was worse off than I would have been if I just gotten a job with a corporation. So the reality is, it isn't easy. There will be some times for struggle, but here's what happened. Sometimes when you go through tremendous pain, my pain was if this bleeding of money did not stop. In June and July, we were going to have to start laying off some of our 18 employees. And that really, really, really scared me because I loved my employees. I didn't want to have to, cast people out. Sometimes when we go through crazy things like that, we learn and grow. In fact, there's a philosophy that there are two ways you grow in life. One is through Satori moments. Satori moments are when you have a sudden awakening. Satori moments are what mystics and sages sometimes talk about when they suddenly connect with the universe and they have a transformation. But there's also Kensho. Kensho is when you wake up because of pain. Kensho is when a girl breaks your heart, but you learn and you grow and you become more resilient. It's when you lose a business, but you become a better entrepreneur because you learn to manage cash flow better. It's when you get hospitalized because you're ill, but you come out and you learn to appreciate your body better. They say Satori and Kensho is our soul's way of speaking to us to help us grow. I went through one of the most insane Kensho moments possible, but that Kensho moment led to a waking up, and that's what we're going to be talking about. When I had that waking up, this is what happened. So remember, we're talking May 2008, operating out of a house in Bangsa on Lorong Maruf. June 2008, I had my Satori moment. It was that boom, that waking up, and I realized what I was doing that was so flawed, why I was so miserable, why 5 years into Mindvalley we were nowhere. And this is what happened next. In the next 8 months, our revenues increased 400%. By December 2008, we had gone from $250,000 US to $1 million US in 8 months flat. That is actually the scale of our growth from that time. And that is when the Mindvalley that you guys read about today in the press or watch on TV happened. That's when we built our majestic offices in Menara UOA. That's when we started hiring incredible staff from all around the world. And that's when we were able to really succeed. I started this business for 2,000 ringgit. 2,000 ringgit was what it cost me to hire a developer in Malaysia to build my first website. Last year, we built over 100 million ringgit in revenue. And we did that without a single investor or VC, no bank loans, no government grants. That's what happens when you have this sudden awakening. So that's what is possible when you suddenly step into the state that I call the state of limitless. More on that in a bit. Incredible things are possible when you realize what really clicks in your head and you step into that level. So the question is, right, what is that? We'll come to that in a moment, but I want to show you something else that's really cool. In May 2009, 1 year from May 2008, when I was on the verge of shutting down my business, this is what I experienced. May 2009, I got to spend only 6 days in the office, and I was free enough to spend 21 days in beaches around the world. I spent time 9 days in Fiji at the invitation of Tony Robbins, experiencing his classes in Fiji at his private resort. I got to spend 5 days on Necker Island with Richard Branson. That was incredible. I got to take my family to a wedding in Cabo, 21 days on beaches. But in that same month, my company had its biggest ever sales month and its single biggest sales day. It was as if magic happened, but it wasn't magic. It was a specific state of mind that I moved into in my awakening. Now the question is, what shifted? This is what I want to share with you. So it took me years for this to click, but this is my theory, and I call it the theory of extraordinary. The theory says that to really function at your optimal level, you need two things. Number one, you got to be happy in the now, okay? Happy in the now means blissful right now, not waiting to be happy when you attain a goal. But number two, you need a vision for the future. You need some vision, some idea of where you want to be in that future. Now, the thing is, this sounds simple, but most people do not have it. So based on this matrix, you can see that there are 4 states of living. You could be in what I call the negative spiral. No happiness, no vision. You are miserable right now. You have no idea where you want to be. Some people might call this depression. Seek medical advice. It's a bad state to be in. But there are also situations where you are happy right now, but you have no vision for the future. Now, I call that the current reality trap. Happiness right now is misleading. You could do that by popping a pill or smoking a joint. But the thing is, if you're simply happy right now, but you have no vision for the future, you can be happy, but it could be fleeting, and you will not be fulfilled. Because, as Tony Robbins said in his famous TED Talk, right, all of us, to be fulfilled, need to give our soul what it fully needs. And what our soul fully needs, according to Tony Robbins, is growth and contribution. Contributing to humanity and growing, learning. If you're simply happy right now, but you have no vision of how you want to contribute, no vision of how you want to learn. You might be happy, but you're not fulfilled. Now, then there's the state that most entrepreneurs are in, and this is the state I was in for the first 5 years, and that is stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety is when you're waiting for you to hit that next revenue target, or get that investor check, or hire that dream employee, or move into that special office. You're waiting to do that, then you'll be happy. The problem with that is that happiness never comes. And when you postpone your happiness, you also take yourself out of the state that you could be in, which is the state of limitless. Now, the state of limitless is where you have those visions, but you're happy now. It's about the journey, not just the destination. And what I've noticed is that all great entrepreneurs tend to be in this state of limitless. So let's define it, okay? So Cheryl earlier introduced this as the state of flow. I used to call it flow, but since I first gave the speech in 2009 on stage with the Dalai Lama, a lot of other people have used the word flow, and books have been written on flow. So just to differentiate this a bit, I've changed the name to the state of limitless. But it basically is this. It's a mental state of mind in which you are pulled forward by big goals, yet happy where you are now. It creates a feeling of growth and a feeling of being lucky. The unique thing about being in this state, well, actually 2 unique things. Number one, it almost feels as if God or the universe has your back. You feel lucky, like every step you take is guided. And also, you feel highly intuitive. It's like your heart is speaking to you. It tells you what decisions to make, where to go. You're operating at a whole different paradigm in which most human beings operate. So again, if you look at this chart, you can see, to be in the state of limitless, you want happiness and you want vision. You need to have both of them together at the same time. This is harder to do than it seems. The majority of entrepreneurs are not there. The majority of entrepreneurs are in the stress state. They have that vision. That's why they're entrepreneurs. But they are miserable and stressed out. And that's why they face those same resistance that I faced in my first 5 years. So here are my observations of many of the great entrepreneurs I got to interact with and people I got to study. So one of them said this: I go into every situation expecting to win. Thinking like this often turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy. I love this quote because this is one of the qualities I notice. These great entrepreneurs, whatever they do, they expect to win. They are happy now. They are chilled out because they expect results. They are not going in with any fear. Now, this quote comes from Sam Walton. He built the biggest company of his time in the 1990s. He was an incredible entrepreneur who started Walmart, which today is probably the biggest employee in the entire world. Then there was this quote, which I found in a biography of another great entrepreneur. This particular poem was written over 100 years ago. I was early taught to work as well as play. My life has been one long, happy holiday, full of work, full of play. I dropped the worry on the way, and God was good to me every day. You can see that this is a guy who was living in flow. When you're living in that state of limitless, you don't tend to have worries. You're happy now, so what do you have to worry about? but you still have visions for the future. But work doesn't feel like work because you're in a state of fun, of happiness. Work feels like play. These great entrepreneurs, work and play, they tend to merge. This was said by John D. Rockefeller. He was the richest man who ever lived in the history of entrepreneurs. He started Standard Oil, which today is led to Exxon, and this was written over 100 years ago. Tony Hsieh said this: notice when flow happens and change your life to make it happen more. Tony Hsieh, of course, is the guy behind Zappos. And then there was this guy. In his biography, his biographer said this: at the root of his reality distortion was his belief that the rules did not apply to him. He had evidence for this. In his childhood, he had been able to bend reality to his desire. He had a sense that he was the chosen one. He thinks that there are few people who are special, like Einstein and Gandhi and the gurus he met in India, and that he's one of them. Sounds like this guy was kind of crazy, right? He seemed to believe that he had these mystical abilities. But that man was Steve Jobs. The biographer was Walter Isaacson. So the more you study the minds of great entrepreneurs, the more you understand that it isn't that they had the best productivity tricks or they really understood growth hacking. It was a state of mind that they were able to put themselves in. And one great entrepreneur I got to know and spend about 3 hours one-on-one chatting with is Richard Branson. By the way, he believes in fun to the extreme that even if you're hanging out with him, you're dressed in togas, hanging out by the bar with your nipples showing. So I got to ask Branson a couple of questions when I met him, right? And one of the things I asked him is, you've started 8 companies, 8 different industries, taken all of them to $1 billion. How do you do it? He says, well, every morning when I wake up, I make a list. And that list is my goals. So in one of Branson's books, you can actually see his list. That's one of his daily lists. He starts every day by just writing down his visions for the future. And his list isn't stuff such as pick up the laundry on the way home from work. It's start a mobile phone company in Africa, launch a new airline. It's figure out how to revolutionize work culture. It's amazing stuff. He constantly has these visions pulling him forward. But the other cool thing about Branson is, I asked him, what do you do when you're sad? And he says, I can't remember the bad times. I only remember the good things in my life. This is a guy who just loves having fun. So in 2009, I was on his island, and what happened was that he took us all in a boat, that boat over there, and drove us to another island in the British Virgin Islands to have drinks at a beach bar. So there we were all having drinks. Branson doesn't drink. He cares a lot about his health, so he doesn't drink. But I, of course, do. So we were drinking, and then as we got back in the boat, it was getting dark, and we had to take this speedboat straight back to his private island where his house is, where we were all staying. So I was standing next to him, really wobbly, trying not to get seasick. I was really, really, really drunk. And he was next to me, driving the boat. He doesn't have his assistant drive it, he drives it. And I watched him put his hand on the throttle, take it all the way to maximum speed. And the boat is skimming across the water, and he's dodging coral reefs and stuff. And then he turns to me and he goes, would you like to drive? And of course, when Branson says that, you don't go, no, thank you. I'm too chicken shit to drive in this state. You go, yeah. So he gave me the wheel, and then he stood next to me. And then I was driving going, oh, God, he doesn't realize that I'm completely drunk. And Branson was standing next to me going, okay, so night is falling. There are no lights over here. I'm going to tell you where to turn so you do not kill us. All right, turn left now. That's a coral reef. Turn right, sandbank. And there I was, like, dodging all these things I could not see. And in my mind, I'm going, please don't kill Branson. Please don't kill Branson. Please don't kill Branson. This will be so bad for the Malaysian press. So, but that's the guy he is. Everything he does is fun. And so let's put theory into practice. The state of limitless. How do you get there? How do you create these levels in your mind where you have these visions pulling you forward, but you're happy now? Okay, so again, recap. There are 2 things: vision for the future, happiness in the now. Let's talk about the first one, happiness, right? Why happiness? Happiness is one of the most incredible ways to jack up your productivity. A study shows that doctors who are primed to be happy are 19% more accurate in their diagnoses. Salespeople who are optimistic are 56% better. Students who are primed to be happy do better in exams. Sean Aker, in his book, The Happiness Advantage, great book, read it, says that it turns out our brains are literally hardwired to perform at their best, not when they are negative or neutral, but when they are positive. Stress, anxiety, any form of fear reduces your productivity. It's documented scientific fact now across a wide range of occupations. But we've been trained to think about happiness in the wrong way. First mistake is the paradox of intention. You must have goals, but your happiness cannot be tied to your goals. Your happiness must come before you attain your goals. That's a quote from the book Quantum Success. Here's what it means. And I'm going to teach you a really simple technique from an entrepreneurial coach in America called Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan calls this the gap. Dan says, this is the mistake that people made. So I drew this on my iPad to share with you. Most of us think about where we are right now. Then we think about the vision for our future, that company, that goal, that thing that we want to attain. And we think about us in the future, and we tell ourselves, that's when I'm going to be happy. Man, I cannot wait to get there because I will be happy. But here's the problem. As you move towards that, the goal moves further. When you attain those goals, you'll have more goals. When you attain these goals, there are more goals. And so you never, ever catch happiness. Happiness is like the horizon. The closer you get to it, the further it extends. So what Dan says is, do not think about the future gap. Instead, think about the reverse gap. You must train your mind to think about not where you're going to be, but where you were before. Think 2 years back. Where were you then? And where are you now? How far have you come? And appreciate yourself. No matter what state you're in right now, gratitude and appreciation. You can appreciate stuff that has happened in the last 2 years. So it's a really powerful idea because most people do it in the complete opposite manner. Rather than think about the reverse gap and express appreciation and gratitude, they're constantly obsessed about the future. And thus, they postpone their happiness. But you cannot catch the horizon. So you see, happiness is a trainable skill. And the first thing that I notice about all these great entrepreneurs, they are absolutely happy. And so stress, anxiety does not wear them down. And that's why they're able to make better decisions, have seemingly incredible luck, because they're operating from this state of absolute bliss. So how else do you jack up your happiness? Happiness, as I said, is highly trainable, right? There are a couple of documented scientific practices that accelerate happiness. First, a quick experiment. Raise your right hand. Now, I want you to take your right hand and put it to the person on your right. Okay? Doesn't matter if you don't know them. That just makes it a little bit more awkward, which makes it fun for me. Now, I want you to gently lean in and smell their neck. Just take a whiff. Right? You too, you can stop. So let me ask you a question. What did you smell? Someone tell me, what did you smell? Peanut butter? What else? Cologne? What else? Shampoo? Right, so what happens is if you do this exercise right now, most of you are going to smell Axe body spray or cologne or perfume, and that's great. But if you were doing this exercise 100 years ago, most people in this room would absolutely stink. Because it's only in the last 100 years that we, as human beings, developed the training to take care of our physical bodies in the way we do right now. We wake up every morning and we shower. How many of you here showered this morning? Okay? How many of you here did not shower? Don't raise your hand. We shower, we spray on perfume, we spray Axe body spray, we dress well, we make sure our clothes are ironed, we take care of our physical needs. Yet while we do that, millions, no billions of people wake up every single morning with fears, anxiety, stress, worry in their head, and they do nothing about it. We wash our bodies, but we do not wash our minds. And we've been trained to think that this is normal. Stress, it's normal. Worries, oh, it's normal. We all worry. Fears, it's normal. No, it isn't. Not if you want to be extraordinary. And the thing is, all of these are things that you can hack, that you can improve. Just that you can hack a computer. You can hack your mind. Meditation. As of this year, 1,400 studies show that meditation makes you happier, removes anxiety, removes fears. Everyone should be meditating every single morning. There is no one method. There are meditation practices from all cultures around the world, but find one that works for you. According to Time magazine, not only does meditation boost the immune system, but brain scans suggest that it's rewiring the brain to reduce stress. When you meditate, you have more resistance to stress as an entrepreneur. Mind Valley launched a meditation app, and we've had 3 million downloads since. This is the one that hit highest grossing app in over 30 countries. Mana, it's free. Download it, play with it, but learn to meditate. Meditation is so important, I would dare say it's more important than taking a shower every morning, in terms at least of your performance as an entrepreneur. Then there's creative visualization. This is really simple. It just means closing your eyes, sitting in bed, and visualizing in a happy way your future as you want it to unfold. Studies show that creative visualization improves performance of sports people, improve goal attainment. It helps you get to goals. Then there is intention setting. Intention setting is simple. It's a way to tune down your negative mind. Intention setting is when you're driving or when you're in the LRT or when you're taking a shower. You just tell yourself, my day today is going to go really well. My 1 o'clock meeting is going to go wonderful. The sales call I have at 2 is going to go incredibly well. When I have tea with my coworkers at 4, we're going to have a wonderful conversation and really bond. It's just playing with the idea that you can control your day on a day-to-day basis and reframe it to make it go beautifully. Then there's inspirational reads. Every night before I go to bed or every morning, I pick up a biography of a great entrepreneur and I just read a few pages. No matter how busy I am, you can afford about 5 minutes to read some inspiring pages. It gets you in that good state. Then there's gratitude, and this is the single most important one. The most recent study from a month ago showed that of all the human characteristics that lead to well-being, gratitude is number 1. Numerous studies have shown that gratitude causes more energy, higher emotional intelligence, more forgiving attitudes, less depression, less anxiousness, more feelings of being socially connected, better sleep, fewer headaches, all from one simple practice that takes you 3 minutes a day. And what is gratitude? It's simply remembering the reverse gap. Every day, every single day, I start my day with a simple practice of thinking about 5 things I'm grateful for in my family and personal life, 5 things I'm grateful for in my business life, and 5 things I'm grateful for about myself every single day. It takes me 90 seconds. But every single day, this is my mind wash. It dissolves the fear, the anxiety, the worry. And it's not just me. As I said, science has shown this is the number 1 characteristic for well-being in human beings. So if you aren't doing this, because it takes only 90 seconds, start. Sometimes the simplest things in the world are the ones that you can immediately jump on. But we fail to do it because it's simple. We fail to do it because corporations haven't trained us that we must do it. Do you know you brush your teeth? Because in the 1920s, an ad campaign was launched in America to convince people to use toothpaste. And the ad campaign was so effective, it was by Pepsodent, that prior to the 1920s, even most Americans did not brush their teeth. Since then, everyone in developing countries brushed their teeth on a daily basis. We were trained by advertising. Unfortunately for gratitude, there is no company that has figured out how to monetize gratitude, right? So there are pharmaceutical companies that have figured out how to monetize happiness. So you can buy Prozac to be happy because the pharmaceutical lobby in the United States, massive. The gratitude lobby, not so big. But all of us can learn these simple practices and see dramatic results. And best of all, they are all free. So, happiness in the now. The act of making sure that you are perpetually happy and that you control your states and you're able to put yourself in these happy states, I have a name for it. I call it Blisscipline. And Blisscipline is one of the most important disciplines you can have in life, the discipline of bliss. It's so effective for me that, I only have 5 minutes left? Done, okay. It's so effective for me that I have brought this into my startup. So how we do it in Mindvalley is that it's one of the single most important keys to our business. We ensure all our employees are happy. It is in our code of awesomeness: turn customers into raving fans, kick serious ass, positive and passionate. We design our office spaces to bring out happiness. We take our employees to team retreats so they can be happy. We have a weekly meeting where we celebrate people's accomplishments to make people happy. And happiness is incredible for a company. Our customer support team here in Malaysia just won an award, Best Customer Support Team in all of Asia. Why? Because they're perpetually happy, so they make the customers happy too. We have culture days where we celebrate different cultures amongst all our employees, America, Malaysia, because celebration creates Blisscipline. Blisscipline is that crazy important ingredient to help you elevate your levels of performance. But thus far, we've only talked about happiness. Let me get to the second ingredient, right? Which is vision for the future. Modern goal setting has completely screwed you over. Most modern goal-setting principles, I now believe, are wrong. And the reason they are wrong is because of this particular concept. I call it brules. A brule, I'll explain it in a bit, but let me explain to you what a brule does to you. In 1998, I found myself in that house on Lake Washington in Seattle. And that's an aerial view of the house. That is Bill Gates' home. I'd gotten a job with Microsoft. I'd spent 5 years studying computer engineering, getting really good at what I did. So I was 1% of the computer engineers in America who passed the Microsoft interviews and got a job with Microsoft. Back then, getting a job at Microsoft was like being selected by Google today. Everybody wanted to work for Microsoft. And so all us new employees were invited to Bill Gates' house for a barbecue. And just behind me was Bill Gates, surrounded, mobbed, 3 people deep by all these other young employees who saw them as their geek god. And I was sitting there, and I felt miserable because I knew that I hated my job at Microsoft, and I wanted to quit. So I quit. I actually had everything lined up to be a Microsoft employee. I could have afforded to pay off all my student debts, do something with my computer engineering degree, but I quit. Instead, I moved to New York to work for a nonprofit for below poverty level, because I felt that was my heart's calling. Now that seems insane. I disregarded everything my teachers, my parents, my society told me. Be a software engineer. And I quit to work for a nonprofit. Turned out to be a good decision. I met my wife through that nonprofit. We are married today. We have 2 kids. And a lot of other things led from that. But the reason I quit is because I was following my heart and intuition. Steve Jobs said, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow know what you truly want to become. And it's a really, really, really important idea, but most of us hesitate. We hesitate to follow what our heart tells us to do because we've been trained that there's a particular cycle to success. You get a degree, you work hard, you get a 9-to-5 job, you get a good career, you join a corporation, or you start your own company, you raise some money, blah, 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 blah. Turns out there is no such way. I want to play this quick clip from Jobs for you. Sorry, there's no sound, so let me just extract the main quote. Everything around you that you call life was made up by people no smarter than you. And you can change it, you can influence it. Once you learn this, you will never be the same again. That's Steve Jobs. What he was effectively saying is that all the rules that we follow in life were made up by people no wiser than you. And you can hack this stuff. And so I want to teach you a new word. I call it brule. A brule is a bullshit rule. Our society creates rules all the time. Bullshit rules that we adopt to simplify our understanding of the world. Rules come from your cultural identity. A lot of rules come from religion. Rules come from memetics and social contagion. Studies show that what we believe about the world isn't necessarily there by rational choice. We believe it because we are following others. Evidence shows that we inherit and transmit behaviors, emotions, beliefs, and religions not through rational choice, but through contagion. When we are unsure of how to react to a stimulus or situation, these theories suggest that we actively look to others for guidance and imitate them. All of you can choose to be sheep, or you can choose to question the rules. The great entrepreneurs I found are ones who consistently question the rules. To them, they are not rules, they are rules. Now, they are rules about your career. And the reason most people are miserable in their jobs, a recent study of Americans showed that over 50% dislike work. That's insane. It's the richest country in the world, and most Americans dislike their jobs. How did they get there? They followed the rules of society. Now, what rules do you buy into? There are common rules for living, common rules for work. I'm going fast because I'm running out of time. But, take my time? Okay. But the thing is, thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that. So let me go back a few slides, okay? Because this is important. Cheryl told me I can. Okay, common rules for living, right? Every woman needs a man. Aging is a part of life. Males and females have different abilities and need different roles. Love has to be painful. Work and play should be separated. Then there are rules for work. The pursuit of money is wrong. Success requires hard work. Working 9 to 5 is the way it has to be. Be realistic in your goals. We need college degrees. All of these, I argue, are rules. By the way, the college degree one gets the most chuckles. In Google, Laszlo Bock, the head of hiring for Google, says that right now in Google, 15% of all their members of different teams do not have a college degree. It's the same as Mind Valley. We no longer look at college or college degrees. It's not a requirement. We found that it's a completely meaningless piece of paper. Outside the rules of physics and the rules of law, all other rules are illusions that we have chosen to believe. You have the right to smash the ones that don't apply to you. A couple of common rules. To be successful, you need a career. No, you don't. There are multiple different ways to be successful. To be successful, this is common in Asian audiences, you must join the family business. Please do not. I've never seen more miserable entrepreneurs than the ones who have joined their father's businesses. Or another one, to be successful, you need to start a business. You need to be an entrepreneur. No, you don't. As I told you, 5 years into being an entrepreneur, I was miserable. And most entrepreneurs are mostly miserable. The fact is, none of these are hard and fast rules. So a secret, right? If you get up more than, say, 2 weeks in a row, and you feel pain about your job or your career path, quit. Because if you're doing something that is painful for you, you aren't going to have that happiness in the now. You aren't going to be inspired to have a vision for the future. You lose your state of limitless. You come out of flow, and you will not be successful. But most people are too afraid to quit. I'm so glad I quit Microsoft, because I woke up 2 weeks straight, miserable at the job I had to do, even though everyone told me that I was a success. You have to have the bravery to quit when it doesn't speak to your soul, regardless of what your parents or your teachers or your society tell you. So what is it that you should be attaining? What I found is that most successful entrepreneurs, they do not have a career. They do not have a business. What they have is a mission. And so my advice to you is get a mission, not a business. There's an evolution that people go through in the world. I call it states of consciousness as entrepreneurs. Right at the bottom is the average man. The average man is governed by rules. They believe in the 9 to 5. They believe that they have to work a certain number of hours for pay. They believe in things such as corporate hierarchy. They've bought into all the industrial age rules that have been drilled into your head by your society, by your schooling, by your fathers, your mothers, your preachers. At a certain state, you start questioning. At this point, you are like a reality hacker. You start questioning, do I really need to get married? As a woman, maybe I could start a 1,000-person company. Do I really need investors? Should I really get a 9 to 5 job? Is working for a large corporation really the part to do? Do I really need a college degree? If you start questioning, you are actually one level up. You are questioning the rules of society. Most entrepreneurs are here. That's why they are entrepreneurs. They're questioning something about the world, and they found a better way to do it. But there's a third level, and this is where great entrepreneurs are at. And that third level, they've questioned the idea of being an entrepreneur itself. They've questioned the idea of money as their sole motivation. They've questioned the idea of career. When you're at that third level, we call it the state of limitless, you are driven not just by a bold vision, but by a mission. There's something that you feel is so deep down your calling that you cannot not do it. At the first level, you're a victim of circumstance. You're complaining about the world. Oh, the government did this, the haze is doing this to me, my boss is an a-hole. At the second level, you're goal-oriented. You have goals pulling you forward. But at the third level, you have a higher calling. Your goals are less important than how you want to serve the world. And I found that many great entrepreneurs I've spoken to, Arianna Huffington, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, they are the nicest people. It's like they are saints. They have a business, yes, but they don't even know how much money they're worth. They don't care about fancy cars or fancy homes. What they are obsessed about, if you see the interviews, if you see them talk, they are obsessed about pushing humanity forward. Business people do it for the dollars. Great entrepreneurs do it to push the human race forward. And when you can find a mission that inspires you in that way, you step away from what most entrepreneurs are operating to a whole different level. And because the mission is so speaking to you, you're in bliss, because the mission may be hard. You don't even know if you're going to do it, but every single day you're doing something with meaning. So how do you find that mission, right? I was in, a question to ask yourself is, And this comes from a philosopher called Martin Rutt, who I had the benefit of meeting a few months ago. He says, you want to find that mission, ask yourself this question: what is your vision of paradise on earth? If you could, in some way, think about the earth that you want your kids to inherit, what is that vision of paradise? What would paradise look like to you? And a few weeks ago, I was in New Delhi. I'd spoken at a conference. I was heading back to the airport, and I was sharing a taxi ride with a member of the United Nations who was also speaking. And this guy, brilliant guy, he had led the United Nations to launch what he calls the My World Survey, where they surveyed 8 million people around the world to see what do people care about. Right at the top, it's education. The second one is better healthcare. This survey, by the way, it's called myworld2015.org. Take it, but the survey also gives you an idea of all the different things on the planet that you could make your mission to fix. Maybe it's healthcare. Maybe it's medicine. Maybe this was number 3, a clean and transparent government. So you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You could serve your mission by joining the government. Just clean it up. Then there's other things, clean water for all. There are so many areas in the world right now that are ripe for entrepreneurial disruption. But this is what I urge people to do. Find a business, a mission that is not just about getting the investor dollar or going IPO. It's about pushing humanity forward. A Gallup study showed that men who could work well into their 80s, 86% kept doing it because their work was fun. That's why happiness is so important, right? But 93% did it because their work was meaningful. When you find that mission, retirement is a rule. You never want to retire because every single day you're inspired with what you do. In fact, most people who are in this state, the word work has a completely different meaning for them. I work 12-hour days, but I could work 1,000 hours nonstop. I dislike vacations because my work to me fuels me. It inspires me. It makes me healthy. My work is my vacation. Everything, Richard Branson says, work, life, work, personal life, it's all the same thing. I just call it living. And great entrepreneurs experience that. Now, another rule is that you have to be an entrepreneur. To find your mission, to push humanity forward, you do not have to start your own company. And when I say this, many people come and thank me and they go, gosh, everyone is telling me that the ultimate success is to start a business. I don't want to. And you don't have to. You can join a company that is doing something good for the world. But remember this, there are 2 types of companies today, humanity minus or humanity plus. Companies which are mining the earth for fossil fuel are humanity minus because it is damaging to the planet. Companies that are pushing for alternative energy, Tesla, companies in solar power, humanity plus. They're doing great things for the world. You'll see the same thing in this way. Companies which are selling high fructose corn syrup as happiness in a can, humanity minus. Junk food, humanity minus. Companies dedicated to organic food, healthy eating, humanity plus. Every company you join, you got to ask yourself, is this humanity minus or humanity plus? Make sure you pick one that is humanity plus. You don't have to save the world. Just don't muck it up for the next generation. Elon Musk is someone I really respect. And about 2 years ago, I got to go visit Spacex with a mastermind I'm in called the X Prize Foundation. It's actually a nonprofit. I'm a member. Elon Musk, Larry Page, all of them are members. So we got to visit Elon Musk's office and spend some time with him. And there I got to actually ask Elon Musk, Elon, if we could take you and put you in a blender and like blend you and distill you, what is that essence that makes Elon Musk? Now, after he got over the fact that I talked about blending him, he said, he says, I don't know, but I can tell you the story. He said, when he graduated, he decided he wanted to work on the internet because he felt that the internet's going to change the world. So he got a job at Netscape, and he went into the Netscape office, and he sat in the reception, and he was a geek. He was an engineer, right? Geeks, raise your hand. Nice. So you guys know what I'm talking about. So he sat in the office holding his resume, and because he was not the most socially tuned person, he didn't have the bravery to actually go and ask someone for an interview. So he just sat there holding his resume, expecting someone to come and talk to him. Hours passed, and then the entire day passed, and no one at Netscape spoke to him. So he decided, F it, I'll just start my own company. And he quit. And what Elon did was, he went on to start his first company, which was actually a small classified ads company, he sold that for a small sum, used the money to start PayPal, sold that for billions, used the money to start Spacex, and then started Tesla. Today, Elon Musk is indisputably the most extraordinary entrepreneur on the planet today. But one thing about Musk, when he answered the question, is he said this. He said, well, what drives me is humankind could be wiped out if an asteroid hits the Earth. We need to be an interplanetary species. Musk is driven by the obsessive idea to colonize Mars because he's afraid that our entire species could be wiped out with one asteroid hit. Heck, it happened 63 million years ago. It is something that you could say he is justified to worry about. Everything he does, from SpaceX to Tesla to Solar City, solar power, rocket ships, electric cars, is to help us preserve the one home we have, planet Earth, but also help us colonize a second home as a backup. This is his obsession. And he said he believes in 10 years we can do that. The thing about people like Elon Musk, Richard Branson, and so on is this. They dream big. And there's a beautiful thing about dreaming big. When you dream big, your problems become small. Great entrepreneurs, whether you're Elon Musk or you're a 25-year-old who want to help distribute clean water to villages, and I've met those people in this audience. I met a girl from India who is building an app to help disabled people in India find someone to love, because only 5% of disabled people in India ever get married. These people, these entrepreneurs, they're 23, they're 24, they're 25, but the thing is, they have big problems. The small stuff doesn't bug them. They aren't worried about that girl who doesn't text them back or the fact that they're getting a little bit fat on their thighs. They don't care about that. When you dream big, your problems become small. The problem with most people in the world today is that their problems aren't big enough. You're worried about the little stuff. But when you can develop a mission, a massive problem, you're operating at a whole different level. Now, one thing you got to know, right? You are going to fail. Like me, lost 2 companies, fired twice. That was in my 20s. In a recent interview, I believe it was with the founder of Y Combinator, he said that most of the 20-year-olds that are being funded by all these different incubators in Silicon Valley are failing. But that's okay. These 20-year-olds who fail bounce back and they start a second business. They may fail again. They start a third business. They may fail again. The average age where most people are becoming successful is actually 38. How many of you here are under 38? Raise your hand. Most of you. How many of you here are over 38? Congratulations. You see, there's this thing called the Mark Zuckerberg effect. We think that great entrepreneurs are starting out in 25. Absolute rubbish. Entrepreneurs who are failing are the ones in 20s. But if you're 38, awesome. You're at the right age. So the older folks here, give them a round of applause. But the younger folks, just know this. You are going to fail, but you got to reframe failure. When you're in that state of bliss, even if you fail, it doesn't matter. You bounce back. You bounce back, you learn, and you grow. And the failure will help you get to success. So entrepreneurs need to learn to tolerate failure. I was talking to a guy called Salim who runs Singularity University in the United States. So the Prime Minister brought him to advise, and he told the Prime Minister of Malaysia, if there's one thing you can do to create more amazing entrepreneurs in Malaysia, start a conference called FailureCon, and then bring all the Malaysian entrepreneurs and give a prize to the one who has failed the most times. He says because in Asian culture, we have to reframe how people view failure. Because there is no such thing. Failure is just missing the ball, missing that kick. Fine, at least you've developed your kicking angle, you get to do it again. You need to tolerate failure and embrace it. Now, a word of warning, right, as you set out on this journey, to find a job that speaks to your heart, to follow your intuition. People are going to tell you that you're crazy. The human heart, one could say, is the most selfish organ in the body because all the good blood, the heart keeps for itself, and then it takes all the other blood and sends it to the kidneys and the brains. But the good blood, the most oxygenated blood, the heart keeps for itself. But the heart has to be selfish because if the human heart was not selfish, every other organ would die. And likewise, you have to put your own happiness first, not your parents, not your teachers, not your religious teachers, not your society, your happiness. And so people will tell you that you're being selfish. Listen, but politely ignore them. And then you'll have people who will say this. They will say, you can't do that. That's not the way society works. You're going to disappoint your mother. You can't do that. It's against your religion. It's against your culture. It's against your society. These people are effectively saying, I am better than you because my chains are heavier. Ignore them. Ignore the people who tell you that you're being immoral or that you're being selfish. Because to go on this journey, a lot of people who are stuck in society today, and they're not wrong, they're just stuck in the way the world works today. They're at like level 1 that I showed you earlier. They will hold you back, and you must have the courage to say no. I remember when I was starting out my business, my teachers told me, why do you want to do that? You're not going to make any money. My family told me, work for Bill Gates. You'll learn to be rich. But all of those advice would have made me miserable. I wouldn't be on the path I am today. But by following my heart and my intuition, as Steve Jobs said, it somehow already knows what you're meant to do. So let's go on to the final bit of this, right? Goal setting redesigned. We've talked about happiness in the now. We've talked about having a mission. The next thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is how to redesign goal setting in your life so that you can be in this state of limitless. So what does goal setting redesign mean? Well, firstly, goal setting as we know it today is rubbish. I think it's completely, horribly wrong. The reason it's horribly wrong is because goal setting does not differentiate between means goals and end goal. A means goal are all those things that society says you must do to check off a box. Get a college degree, marry a wonderful person, have 2.5 kids, buy a car. All of these are means goals, end goals. All of these are means goals. What you want are the end goals. Now, what are end goals? End goals are those things that really make you happy. End goals are feelings. End goals are waking up every morning feeling loved, waking up excited about the work you do, contributing to the planet, being in a perfect state of health. These are the end goals. So many people wake up miserable one night at the age of 40 because they chose a career before they could legally buy a beer. When you focus on end goals, you don't make that mistake. You identify what truly drives your happiness, and then you find a way to get there outside society's rules. So here's a framework for balanced goal setting, right? There are only 3 types of end goals. The first are experiences. Experiences are travel, being in love, raising children, having a business that speaks to your soul. The second type is growth. Growth is learning a new language, learning a new skill, launching and failing at a company. And the third is contribution, pushing humanity forward. It could be charitable service. It could be writing a book. It could be writing a piece of software. It could be working for a company that's humanity plus, but you're contributing to the planet. There are only 3 types of end goals, and all end goals fall in these buckets. Now, each connects to the other. So I do this exercise with my team. We take a piece of paper. We write down 2 lines. We make 3 columns. First column, everybody writes down their experiences. What do they want to truly experience in life? People might put down a trip to Brazil. They might put down being truly madly in love. Just experiences, no judgment. Then the second thing is we ask them to have these experiences, how do you have to grow? And they'll write down, well, I need to be earning at least this much of money. I need to have more confidence. I need to learn a new language. Then we ask them, if you were lucky enough to be the man or woman who has all these experiences and has grown to this level, how would you contribute to the world? And they write down how they want to give back. When you have all 3 of these filled in, you have a more holistic form of goal setting. And these good goals, they should scare you a little, but excite you a lot. A goal should scare you because if it doesn't scare you, you're thinking too small. If it doesn't excite you, you aren't going to be happy as you pursue it. So a good goal should scare you a little and excite you a lot. Yet, most people will put down goals that they dread, such as, like in my case, the goal that I dreaded was graduate with a computer engineering degree and get a good job. That was my goal. But every time I looked at that, it didn't speak to me. It spoke to what society told me I had to do as an Asian kid growing up in Malaysia. Now, the power of this exercise is this, right? When we start writing down our goals, incredible things often happen to us. I want to share with you a personal email. You guys know Kylie Ng? Okay. He's on the director board for MaGIC, and he runs 500 startups. So Kylie used to work at Mind Valley, and we were friends. And Kylie sent me this in 2008. He found an article in New York Times about how Richard Branson had invited the founder of Wikipedia, Tony Blair, etc., all to come and hang out on his island. So Kylie said, Branson, Tony Blair, ex-co-founder of PayPal, etc., gather on Branson's island to plan how to save the world, as well as party with bikini-clad women. Do you guys aim that big? I really want to get to that point where I can be on that island with Branson someday. We set that goal. And it's a really mysterious thing about goal setting. We don't know whether it's the reticular activating system of our brain or thoughts creating reality. We don't know. But somehow when you write these goals down or you share them, they tend to come true more likely than not. Now, it took us 4 years. Now, Kylie and I thought, well, to get there, we got to be billionaires. Turned out we didn't. We found a loophole. That's a different story. But 4 years later, that's me and Kylie on Richard Branson's island. We got to spend time with Branson, get inspired by him, hang out with him, ask him deep questions on life, even one-on-one time. Pure loophole. Our brains found a way. Now, one could say that was thoughts manifesting reality. I don't know if that's real. I don't know if it's the brain's reticular activating system. You don't have to understand how it works, but having these goals written down somehow work. So let's talk about how Mindvalley evolved. I've been consistently writing down these goals in this way, and it's led to great evolutions in my business. When I first moved to Malaysia and started my company, this was our About Us page. I had 0 employees, so I put my dog as my PR director. Because I was that lonely. It got a few laughs. In fact, the first time we got written about on TechCrunch was because we had a dog as a PR director. That's our About Us page now. We have amazing individuals from 40-plus countries, 200 employees. That was my first Christmas card to my partners. You can see I basically had to torture my dog and my cat. My cat still hasn't forgiven me. She doesn't come anywhere close to me, and it's now been like 8 years. That's our Christmas card more recently. Beautiful company-wide Christmas party. That was our office. That was actually our office and our meeting room. You'll recognize Kylie there in the corner. That's our office in Cheras. This is what our meeting rooms look like now. It's a beautiful new steampunk office, not in Cheras, but in Bangsa. That was where we laid out the food for our employees to eat. Those are developers. Behind them, you can see tins of Nescafe 3-in-1 coffee and other, like, the cheapest biscuits money can buy. That's the diner where our employees eat today. That is our company photo. Somehow you can see it's a really bad photo. We didn't even crop out the air conditioner on the right. We are posing next to books and marketing courses. I guess it makes us look smart. That's our company photo today. That is the Hall of Awesomeness, where our new employees took an oath of awesomeness. You can see the plant behind me has precisely 9 leaves left. We have a projector/whiteboard. It's horrible. That's our Hall of Awesomeness. 3 years later, we built it in Bangsa for 200 people. Pure cash. All of this because of this practice of writing down goals and consistently dreaming big while being in that state of flow. Every single part of this journey was fun. Even when we had the crappy office, even when we were in Cheras, even when my only company was my dog, Ozzy. Now, this exercise also helped our employees transform. So we gather all our employees in our auditorium and we make them do this exercise once a year. So this guy from Brazil, he wrote down a whole bunch of things under his experiences, growth, and contribution. A lot of them that I circled are around health. His name is Ronan. Ronan just took part in Viper Challenge in Malaysia, became #1 out of 20,000 participants. Jason from Canada wrote a lot of items about being a world-class speaker. Jason ended up getting a gig at Awesomeness Fest, even though he was just in charge of PowerPoints and stuff, because the speaker fell ill. And he spoke, and he was voted best speaker. This lady, Luminita Soviak, from Romania, while working here in Kuala Lumpur, wrote down goals about how she wanted to be a published author. She ended up writing a blog post that became the most viral personal growth blog post in the history of Facebook. 1.2 million people shared her post, and she got a book offer from Penguin. Her book is being published next year. This guy, Amir Ahmad from Sudan, he came here because his father was a lecturer here at a Malaysian university. He worked for Mindvalley, joined us as an intern at 22. When he did this exercise, he said, I want to be a world-class speaker. I want to speak at Ivy League universities. I want to share the stage with legendary people. He pulled it off. He wrote a book called My Islam. Foreign Policy magazine in America voted this book one of the top 25 must-read books of 2013. It's about how digitization can create revolutions in the Middle East to transform the Middle East. Amazing. And he was 26 when he did this, but it was all written down in his 3 most important questions. So Mindvalley produces a lot of famous entrepreneurs, a lot of famous employees because of this process. But it's because we make our employees write down their experiences, their growth, their contribution. When you do this for yourself and you do it for your employees, incredible things happen. See, it's not just about putting yourself in the state of limitless, it's about doing it for everyone you touch. At Mindvalley, we call this exercise the blueprint for the soul. Everyone's goals we stick on a giant corkboard, and our employees can go and read other people's blueprints so they can understand how they can support and collaborate with each other. And if they see something that they like, they write it down on their own. There is no monopoly on dreams. Recently, a group of employees went and looked at all the other employees who loved hiking or who wanted to visit the Himalayas. They got them all together and they did a joint employee trip to Nepal for 7 days. People grow, people transform. And the thing is, what they are writing down are not rules. It's the stuff that life is about. It's experiencing hiking in the Himalayas. It's experiencing writing a book. It's experiencing health and fitness. That's what really matters. Now, a case study by Gallup on 10 million employees showed that people who were found to be more productive and contributed more to their company said yes to this statement. My supervisor or someone at work seemed to care about me as a person. When you become an employee, I beg you, don't be an asshole. Sorry, when you become an entrepreneur, many entrepreneurs care only about lining their pockets or getting their business to a certain level. When you learn to care about your employees and help them grow, as you grow, you start getting incredible employees. And if you are looking to join a company where you're cared about like that. Here's a tip that I want to share with you, right? If you become an entrepreneur and you start having employees, have them do this exercise, then put this on your to-do list. I take a picture of every employee's goal list, and on my to-do list, I use an app called Things. I write down ways I can just, in the simplest way possible, help someone attain their dream. So if someone puts down, I want to learn public speaking, I would go to a bookshop, buy a book, How to Talk Like Ted, write a little message to them, leave it on their desk with a beautiful message. And employees transform because companies are not supposed to care about your private dreams. They're not only supposed to care that you're a productive worker. But when you do this, you create the most loyal team around you. And it is amazing to see how this exercise has transformed the culture of our entire company. Bill Jensen, who wrote the book Future of Work, said that in the future, it's not just about asking your employees to be engaged in your company's vision. Companies have to be engaged in their employees' vision. And when you can create this collaborative structure, everyone is in the state of limitless, and things bloom. So if you were to do this exercise, we don't have time, so I'm going to wrap up right now. Thank you for giving me extra time, Cheryl. If you were to do this exercise, this is what you got to think about. Set a timer for 10 minutes, take a piece of paper, write down 2 lines so you have 3 columns, and then ask yourself, what experiences I really want in life? And examples of experiences would be love relationships. Describe the love relationships you want with yourself or with someone else. Describe the friendships you want. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Who are these people going to be? Write down the adventures you want in life, whether it's bungee jumping or driving through the mountains of New Zealand. Write down your environment. What type of room do you want to wake up in every day? What type of home do you want to live in? What would your future office look like? Now you go to the second column, growth. How will you grow yourself in terms of health and fitness? So many entrepreneurs forget about their bodies. So they may be a billionaire, but their body is going to hell. You want to be balanced, so have goals for your body. Have goals for your intellectual life. What books are you going to read? How often do you read? What courses do you take? Have goals for your spiritual life. How often do you pray? How often do you go to mosque? How often do you meditate? Have goals so that you can stay connected to your spiritual power. Have goals for your skills. What new skills do you want to learn so you can become a more talented human being? Now, when you answer these 2 columns, you go to the final column, which is contribution. How are you going to contribute to your society, to your family, to your community? How will you contribute via your career to the company you're working for? How would you contribute to your creative life? What would you do for fun, whether it's studying classical dance or learning to paint? How would you contribute to your family life? whether it's your parents or the kids you're going to have? How would you contribute to your community through volunteer work or donation or allowing your company to provide some free service? When you're pursuing a mission, the journey is blissful, and you move into the limitless state. And this is why it's so important to understand this. Step beyond the rules of life. Forget about career, forget about entrepreneurship. Find a mission, and make sure that you pursue this mission, you are blissful. And when you can bring these two together, you are in this whole different state of operating. You level up. And people who are in this state tell me that they feel like they're lucky. They feel like the universe has their back. They feel like they are making intuitively correct choices. It's like a whole new field of human ability has opened up to them. But to get there, you have to question many of the rules of common society. There is a side advantage. When you get to this state, one more amazing things happen. So I once sat down with Branson, and I asked him, you've started 8 companies and taken all 8 to $1 billion. If you could tell me one piece of advice, one thing that we could all learn that is like maybe just a simple status update, what would you say? So he thought about it for a moment, and he said this: it's all about finding and hiring people smarter than you, getting them to join your business and giving them good work, then getting out of the way and trusting them. You have to get out of the way so you can focus on the bigger vision. That's important. And here's the main thing. You must make them see their work as a mission. So when you build a mission-oriented company, when you work for a mission-oriented company, the beauty is you help other people gain meaning in their lives. And so people rally around you, people join you, and you get to share that mission with others and help them gain meaning and happiness and bliss in their lives. And together you all move into that state. The reason I have a great team right now is because we are a mission-oriented company. We don't do this because it's work. I don't even understand regular concepts of work. We do this because it speaks to our soul. And we are happy every single day as we do it. And so Mind Valley feels lucky as a company. There's a different energy about it. But it's because we are perpetually operating in the state of limitless. And when you do, you will never, ever be alone. So choose a path that lets you be extraordinary. Quick recap. Aim for a mission, not a business or career. Practice discipline as you journey towards your mission. And when you have this too, you are in the state of limitless. And finally, know this. Entrepreneurship is not a goal. It shouldn't be a goal. Entrepreneurship is the side effect of having right goals. Entrepreneurship is a means goal. When you have the right end goals, if you're meant to be an entrepreneur, if that's the right way to get there, you will end up there. If you're meant to be working for someone else, you'll end up there. But focus on the end goals. Entrepreneurship itself is meaningless. If you just aim for entrepreneurship or you just aim for a career, you could fall into the trap that most career people are in and most entrepreneurs are in. And that's the trap of misery, because they aimed for the wrong thing. They aimed for a rule rather than what truly speaks to their soul. So the only advice, people, the only advice you want to listen to is the advice from your heart. As Steve Jobs said in his famous Stanford address, listen to your heart, listen to your intuition. They somehow already know what you want. Thank you.